Okay, thank you for joining everyone. Today we're going to talk about substandard relationships. The reason why I want to talk about this subject is that it's because so many different things are going on. And so for the Mental Awareness Month, as a part of Speaking in Color Saturdays, also known as Six Saturdays, we just want to discuss some things that really impacts our relationships. So let me just give everyone an overview of what is a substandard relationship. When you talk about substandard relationships, what it is something that's not normal or usual. And it can occur in your family, in church, that causes a sort of dysfunction and impact in who you are and how you show up. So you want to be really mindful how you broker your relationships. You might think it's very innocent. You might think it might not cause any harm or any problems, but it could cause a lot of issues. So we want to talk about that because people are going into substandard relationships in a way that it seems like it's normal to them. But then when you walk backwards and really think about it, is it normal or are you settling? And are you settling because you don't want to be alone or you don't want to do the work? So we're going to just really dive into substandard relationships and just kind of go into the different aspects of it. Like I said, family, church, and its impact on you. So when it comes to the family, it might come across as insults and criticisms, which carry a lot of weight. Words carry a lot of weight and can impact that person as a child, but it can impact their future as well. Gossip. People gossip in their families all the time. And that gossip, once again, it can really hurt to hear that someone close to you in your family is saying something very damaging about you, whether it's true or not. And then being lack of inclusive, making sure that you're not even a part of the conversation, not allowing you to be able to be a part of the family, be a part of the group, be a part of the activities that's happening in the family. Also, deception and lies. You know, there's a lot of generational patterns that has been created that has been built on deception and lies. A lot of things that's not true. A lot of times too, people have problems with accepting differences. If someone is different in your family, then people have a tendency of not being appreciative of who you are, your uniqueness. You're that way because of a reason. And then the inability to apologize or be forgiving. Those are things that are some of the catalysts of creating substandard relationships. And that's just in your family. So does anyone else want to chime in before I go further into substandard relationships?
You can continue. I just wanted to say hello to everybody who may be listening to this now or who may be joining later. Welcome to Six Saturdays. We have Six Saturdays every first and fourth Saturday of each month. And Six Saturdays is founded off of our book, Speaking in Colors. You can purchase that on B.E.S.T Enterprise Group and other platforms where they are selling books. And it's about communication. So basically, that's why we are developing these, to just open up a form of communication. I'll let you go ahead and continue. I just wanted to let people know how they can purchase the book and why we do what we do.
Thank you so much, Nikita. She is a co-author, and I am really glad to have her to be a part of this process, because the partnership that we have is in two different generations. And we all understand, like our book talks about speaking in colors, that when we're speaking the color based upon who we are, based upon a different factors, how we were born, how we were raised, the nature versus nurture of which dictates who we are and how we communicate and transmit information and frequencies. So we just want to, like she said, just continue these conversations, to just say, hey, you guys, we're here for you. We are really looking to better forms of communication throughout the world, and especially within yourself, because it's important that you begin with yourself before you can point the finger and look at someone else. So once again, substandard relationships occurs in the family. And people have to understand that even though those are the people that you seek to be close to you, that you want to be able to trust and have around you, but a lot of times those are the ones that hurt you the most. So that's why I want to begin with substandard relationships beginning in the family. Then you're in an intimate relationship. So in your family household, you develop these patterns, you develop who you are, you develop some good and bad habits. And so now those substandard relationships that you've had in your family or still having, you're now carrying into an intimate relationship. And that has a lot to do with how you choose your mate. So in a substandard relationship, an intimate relationship, it may be a situation where you're in a relationship, intimate, sex, sharing a household, maybe anything, but you have not met your partner's friends or family. And the thing is, you may stay in that substandard relationship because you don't feel motivated to get out of it. You don't want to do the work. So you find yourself settling. There's a lot of people operating in these type of relationships where they have totally built a life, and where that person's family don't really know a lot because the family could be in another state. The family could be dysfunctional and don't even talk to the person. Because I've heard some situations where I was listening to the conversation by Hill Harper, and he was saying how a person can meet your friends, but never say that you have a wife or a husband. So it's like, that's substandard. Why you don't know everybody? It appears that you have a normal relationship, but the relationship is in a box and you're not realizing it because you may have such a need that you're not trying to find out what's really going on in your relationship. You're just accepting stuff, but in your gut, you know something's wrong, but you have just decided to accept what is. And that's a substandard intimate relationship. Anyone else want to chime in on something pertaining to that?
I think that it's important to develop relationships outside of that context because we do really just understand and know who a person is. To me, you really don't know who a person is if you don't know their family, you don't know their extracurricular activities, you don't know things outside of just seeing that actual person. So I think that's important to, make sure that you delve deeper into that so that you can have an understanding of really who that person is. Because without that, I feel like you don't have a full understanding of a person or what you will be looking forward in the long run.
Right. That's so true. That is so true, because the thing is, who you are and whether you're going to dive into really finding out who you're dealing with says a lot. But once again, it goes back to maybe your family. You had people who were deceptive and lied a lot, or gossip. So then you don't want to rock the boat and you don't want to inquire. You don't want to seem argumentative because you're inquiring. You don't want to come across with different insults and criticisms. So you just kind of accept what you think is the norm, but your gut and your spirit is saying something's not right. Something is off the cuff here, but yet and still you go ahead and accept the situation. Is that kind of what you're talking about, Nikita?
I'm so sorry. I'm at an event as well as trying to make sure I tap in Could you say that one more time?
So we'll just go on. But thank you for chiming in at your event. Thank you so much. Also, you want to really understand what it means to be able to love yourself, to be able to love yourself enough that you will risk the fact of asking questions. Because some people make you feel bad for asking questions, but if you love yourself enough, you want to know what's going on. You want to make sure you're being treated fairly. So you want to be able to go forward and seek answers to those things that's bothering you, because in the end, it can affect your health, which is going to lead me into the next one. A substandard medical relationship is important as well, because a doctor or a professional cannot be giving you the care and treatment that you desire. For example, it can be a prescription error. They could be prescribing you something and not doing the due diligence to check if you have any allergies, or they can be over or under prescribing you medication, which can affect the outcome of what you initially went there to seek. Or it can be a situation of a misdiagnosis, because these doctors are practicing. And that's why it's a lot of time that you want to go yourself and kind of look at your own symptoms and then maybe get that doctor confirm it. And if you're not comfortable with that substandard relationship, because some doctors are very impersonal, they don't have that bedside manner, as it's called, you might want to go and get a second opinion. But there's been a lot of people that have been misdiagnosed based upon so many things. And those are substandard relationships. Surgery complications. There are situations where people have unnecessary surgery, or surgery that can cause harm to them, because once again, the doctor didn't do the due diligence to check their chart to see what's really going on. Now, I understand, especially in the era of COVID, the medical professionals are really overworked. And that's why you have to take it upon yourself to do some due diligence to correct your health, to stay in good health, to do better. But the thing is, if you're paying to go to a professional and that professional is not prescribing you the right medication, or misdiagnosing you, or providing surgery that you really didn't need, then you have to really be mindful of that. That's a substandard relationship that you might want to reconsider and find another doctor or a hospital. Also, another situation is not monitoring you properly, not doing follow-ups with you. They prescribe something, or you're in the hospital and no one's really following up as they should to make sure you're doing well, and even giving you care to say, okay, when you get out the hospital, these are some things you need to do. That's why it's important, once again, going back to the family perspective, that you got to ask questions, regardless of how it looked. It might be a situation where it seemed like it might be a racist situation, and you might not feel inclusive in that hospital or talking to that doctor, but you want to still use your voice, use your words, because this month, like I said, is Mental Health Awareness Month. And you really want to make sure that you're doing your due diligence to make sure you're not continuing working and operating in substandard relationships. Once again, it can be your family, whether it's insult, criticism, gossip, deception, and lies, or it can be in an intimate relationship that you're in, where it appears that this person really loves you, got your best interests at heart. You might have a house, you might have kids, but they're living a lie. They're living 2 lives, 3 lives, 4 lives. And it doesn't matter if it's male or female. People are just doing all types of stuff because no one's holding them to the carpet. No one is asking them or making them be true. So you want to be mindful of that. And once again, the medical profession, make sure you're looking at how things are in the medical profession as it pertains to your life. Now, the last one I'm going to talk about is the church. Okay. You can go to a mega church and you can think that it's going to be so different, but you'll find that the sins, the issues, the concerns, the pastor, the leadership is just as bad as a small church that you left. That's another substandard relationship. You want to be mindful of that. You give your tithes and offerings, and you thinking that it's going to make a difference because that's what the pastor says. Oh, according to the word, it said, give and it shall be given to you. Pressed down, shaken together, running over. That's fine. But then you're having problems making your ends meet, and you're not being led and guided on maybe financial classes within the church or something within the church that you need help with. For example, there has been situations where people, when COVID first hit, that churches were not helping their parishioners. But then I went to a church here in Georgia, I think it was called Grace, where it was the people who were paying tithes and offerings, but they offered to help them for a season. So you want to make sure that you're looking at substandard relationships all around you, kind of cleaning up those situations to make sure that everything's okay. So before I go any further, anyone else have anything to offer?
And I'll just say this just briefly, and hopefully I'm saying the same thing that you're saying when it comes to it, that not having substandard relationships is a two-way street. So you must be open and transparent first to cultivate real relationships so that your relationships won't be substandard.
Right.
And so you can't expect for you to have these deep, full, cultivated relationships if you are not someone who allows those things to happen in your life, or if you're not authentic within yourself. So, it's one thing to say, almost like you were saying about the church family and things of that nature. It's one thing to want a church home to help you, but you're not tithing or giving into that church. It's one thing for wanting a friend to help you when you're not a good friend to the other person.
Right.
It's one thing to be in a substandard relationship when you feel like, people are talking about you or, kind of talking about you behind your back, but are you doing that with them to other people?
Right.
So when you understand these things and how to operate in that way, it makes it easier to kind of calibrate the relationships that you have if you are indeed one of these people. It's not that you can not be one of those people and just expect to have, to not have substandard relationships. If not, that's not the type of person that you are. And those aren't the principles and the things that you cultivate in your life.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Oh my God, that's a good point. Because the thing is too, like you said, we also too, and I hope we're on the same page, we also look for someone to save us. So like you said, you're going along the path of a relationship, but yet and still you're not good to other people, but yet and still you want other people to be good to you. So it's really interesting how these things are functioning and operating in our lives. And I know some people say, oh, well, karma is not a real thing, but as you give out, you also receive, and vice versa. The little you give out, the little you
Correct.
receive. So we have to be mindful of that. Yes.
It's to start to not, everything starts with self, and not having a substandard relationship or a not full relationship with yourself. If you don't take care of yourself, if you don't honor yourself and set certain boundaries, that will trickle over. So before, it kind of goes into anyone, the church family or whoever, you have to not have a subsurface relationship with yourself first and foremost.
Right. And that's so true, because the thing is, not having not just a relationship with yourself, but a sound, solid relationship is so essential, because people have relationships with themselves all the time. But the thing is, it's like, well, it was a person I was talking to, and we had a situation, and his thing was, well, he doesn't feel that he needs to say he's sorry for being himself. He has set a substandard relationship within himself that now permeates with relationships for other people. So it's important to make sure that when you are setting a relationship with yourself, that it's healthy. Because if it's not a healthy relationship, then you're going to have a problem in the end in how you connect, transmit, and interact with others. So it is so essential that you look at everything about yourself, because people have a tendency of wanting other people to do the heavy lifting and not themselves. And by doing that, they're causing the situation and the outcome to be unhealthy, because it's one-sided. And that's why people are dealing with so many substandard relationships, because people are getting really lazy and they really don't want to do the work. And I understand, like I said earlier, beginning with the family, to deal with the lies and deceit and not being inclusive and people gossiping about you and all those things in your family growing up, that causes you to be who you are as an adult, unless you work at doing better and being better. But the thing is, if you don't, you carry that into your relationships. And that's the thing that's not healthy. That's the thing that we have to look at. So then we think the church is going to and supposed to help us, but that's not the case. The church is there to provide a service. Your relationship is with the Most High, with God. So let's go on. So for example, back to the church. So you think that you are in a good church, but your 15-year-old kid, she got pregnant, and the boy from the church doesn't want to marry her. So now you're mad with the church. You expected certain thing in the church, but once again, the church is filled with hurt people. Everyone has a different pathway, a different road in which they're trying to get healed. And some people are in the church are not trying to get healed. They're preying, preying, on other people. Okay, so we have to be mindful what pathway, what road that people are operating in within the church body, because it's not always what we tend to think and believe it is. Okay, so another one about the church, substandard relationships. So you volunteered in your church, and then you got sick, and you find out that nobody in the church is calling you to check on you. You thought you had friends in the church body, but you're like, what's going on? What's happening? Once again, those are substandard relationships, because a friendship is just that. A friendship is solid. A friendship is loyalty. A friendship is truth and trust. And if you don't have a person that's doing that for you, with you, then you have a substandard relationship. Just because you're building a relationship with someone, it doesn't mean that it's a true friendship. It might be just an acquaintance, or it just might be a colleague. So you have to look at really where you are. And going back to what I said earlier, you have to look at the truth of what's really going on. Yes?
And it's not even, a church is the body of people that it's in. It's the body that it's in. And so when it comes down to it, the relationships that we have is based off of, the connections that you have prior. When you think of what the church is, the church itself is just a building.
Right.
The church, the physical part of the church is a building.
Right.
But when you think about the structure of the actual church, it's the community.
Right.
So you don't have to necessarily have to be in the building to have somebody check on you, to have somebody be there for you. And so I just don't want to put emphasis on the church because that has been so weighing down.
Right.
When really the case is that church is your friends, church is your community, church is your family, your loved ones, the people that you commune with on a regular basis. So they should be able to, come out and help, do those things. If that's the case.
Right, 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 right. But that's why too, with the substandard relationship, you have to really know what those relationships really are. And once again, you are skewed in your thought process. Going back to your childhood, you may have thought that, okay, these things are a friendship from how you grew up, or you have decided to bond with someone. And if you really look at it and really check your gut, they're not healthy. As kids, we tend to sometimes connect with people who are not good for us. Just because they seem fun or risky or, doing adventurous or what have you, we start bonding with those kind of people. But if you really look at things in the end, a lot of times those are not good relationships. They get you in trouble. They cause you hardship. Some people have hung around people that have gotten them killed. I know from when I was growing up in school, because that person had this or things look flashy or what have you. So we have to be really mindful of what we're doing and how we're cultivating these relationships, because that's very important. Which leads me to this right here, which is really crucial for this month of mental health, because we have to be mindful and know and understand that everything of who we are and what we do, it impacts our lives and our future. It impacts future generations. It impacts our children, our husbands, our wives, everyone around us. So if we're making these relationships that are substandard something that's important for us and something that we're holding on to or bonding with, we have to realize its impact and how it's going to affect everything, your job, any and everything. So we have to be mindful of that, which leads me to this. This really hurt my heart to see this, because not only are substandard relationships becoming prevalent in the world today, but how people see the world is becoming skewed. So this pastor, he went before the congregation and said or admitted that he was having an affair on his wife. Okay. So the congregation was really proud and happy that he went ahead and confessed his sin. So they were applauding, they were happy, the whole 9 yards. But in actuality, he actually raped a 15, 16-year-old. So she came before the church because she had been under his leadership, I assume, for at least 27 years. He said the affair was 20 years ago, and she said, no, it was 27 years ago. And she said, and you raped me on your office floor. And it's really something that his perspective, his truth, his mentality was that of an affair, which made everyone believe it was a true adult. Now, the irony in the South is that it's legal to have a relationship, a grown man, with a 15, 16-year-old. They're trying to change the laws. I think in the Carolinas, someone in Congress, a lady, she's trying to change the laws to at least increase it. But it's really sad and sick that this person, this pastor, felt that this was normal. And it made me realize that his substandard relationships caused him to believe that his behavior was normal. Anybody want to chime on that?
Well, that had nothing to do with a substandard relationship. That was a morality issue. If there was a substandard relationship at all, the substandard relationship that he had was with God. Yeah, so that's kind of, you know, it's unfortunate that that is the case, you know what I mean? And that's why it's important to have foundation, you know, with God first and not just the people of the church. But the only substandard relationship there in that whole context was the one that he had with God, because if his relationship was prominent and he had a real relationship, he wouldn't have even gotten himself into that situation to begin with.
Right. Yeah. So that's why we got to be mindful of the relationships that we're cultivating, because each and every relationship is essential to our well-being. Each and every relationship is essential to who we are, and it determines a lot about who we are. So I'm going to kind of close out. Nikita, you have anything to add?
No, I don't. My main thing is that, you know, just making sure that you don't have a substandard relationship with yourself first. So that way, when different relationships come into your life, you know, you can understand the type of relationships that you want to continue to cultivate. Because it has to start with you first. So that's the only thing that I would actually add. You can't cultivate not having substandard relationships if the one that you have with yourself is substandard.
Right. And that's so true, because the thing is, we just have to make sure, like you said, that we start from a healthy place. Because once again, our family relationships has a lot to do with cultivating who we are from childhood, teenage years, young adult, especially those who end up having their own families, and then who you are as a mature adult. You know, it's a lot of people who are now revisiting some things in their retirement age of unhealthy substandard relationships, and they're wondering why certain things are the way they are, and they're just now unpacking some of that stuff. But my thing is, it's better to unpack it now instead of not at all. I mean, then or now instead of not at all. So it's very important that you just look at your relationships, what's impacting you, what is causing some of the relationship issues that you could be having, and be honest, be truthful that it is causing an issue. Be truthful and honest that it is impacting and hurting you and your future. So once again, thank you for joining us for Speaking in Color Saturdays, also known as Sick Saturdays. Our objective is to, once again, like Nikita said, just bring the tools and resources to you that will help you to cultivate better communication and relationships. The world is really hurting. There's a lot of healing that needs to be done. And we just want to do our part in helping you to just do better. The book is based upon our relationship, our experiences, in how we have been able to cultivate some wonderful relationships, and how we've been able to wean and prune some relationships that no longer suit us. My daughter has been in the beauty and beauty industry for over 20 years. I've been in the music and entertainment industry, construction and different industries for over 30 years. And no matter what industry we find ourselves in, we realize that it's all the same thing. It's communication, it's frequencies, it's transmitting, and you're talking to maybe that child of that person, when they were 6 years old, because sometimes people have triggers that really bothers them, that you said something and you don't know what you said that caused them to react and respond. So the quote for today is, relationships fail when people take their own insecurities and project them as their partner's flaws. That's by Steve Maraboli. And we want to be mindful of how we are dealing with our insecurities. And like it says here, how we are projecting them on others. Once again, thank you. And we'll be back every first and fourth Saturday. So this is Mental Health Awareness Month, and to your health. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye, all.